Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, or Tank12, happen to call me, I don't really care. Welcome back to World of Tanks, where we're today watching a replay of me playing the T54 Heavy. Yes, I decided to buy this tank. No, I don't think it's a really good tank, but it kind of fits my playstyle. So, why did I buy the T54 Heavy, even if I did say in the preview that it is not a very good tank and that it is a vehicle that will probably cause more frustration than fun? Well, it's because I'm a very big fan of the T110E5 and also the Renegade, and I thought, why the hell not try and see if I can get this for the minimum bid of, what was it, I think above, I spent 12 to 13, something 13,000 gold on it, and I thought for a tier 9 premium heavy tank, I'm willing to go that far, especially since I had the gold. But personally, I have to say, the auction, they were not the best choices for vehicles, in my opinion, but at the same time, I didn't really have a problem with any of the vehicles that they were selling, so I'm actually kind of happy that they weren't selling some really obscene, completely overpowered vehicles. And, because we're always complaining about the fact that they're either selling really OP tanks or they're selling vehicles that are just kind of, okay, but nothing special and people will not buy them. I think that's much better having a kind of a boring vehicle than having a new tank that is going to just completely upset the entire gameplay and meta of this game. But that doesn't mean that the T54 Heavy is a slouch in any regard. It has a 120mm gun, does have quite a few millimeters of armor on the turret, it has 12 degrees of gun depression, and it's not the slowest tank either. For a heavy tank, 35 kph is completely fine in my books, but it does feel a bit like an older vehicle, like a tank that Wargaming had ready for a while now. Because there are several things you need to know about the T54 Heavy. You can see we're playing on the Siegfried line, and we're playing a really interesting kind of setup. It's mostly tier 9s and tier 8s, or actually only tier 9s and tier 8s, but at the same time, it's basically our team controlling almost the entirety of the western part of the map and just a little bit of the city, while the enemy team almost completely is situated inside of the city and maybe a little bit at the back. So what I've noticed in my few sessions that I played this tank now in is that I realized this vehicle needs to be played very cautiously. As you can see, we are bouncing shots, but it's a tier 8, and there are only tier 8 vehicles that have hit us by this moment in time. And the lower plate on the vehicle is really bad. Almost anything goes through, except if you have like a lot of luck, and the angle is not good for the enemy team. But what is really kind of difficult to protect is sadly the commander's cupola with a machine gun port on top. That is just the traditional World of Tanks American vehicle weak spot, and sadly it's just not very strong. As you can see, as soon as you have a round going towards that area and it hits the cupola, most of the time it will go through because it's rather thin. So it makes the armor on this vehicle a bit unreliable if you're not in a hull down position. But since we are in a hull down position and we're struggling with this little block of wall behind us that is keeping us from going away, we were still kind of exposing the weak spot. But at the same time, as you can see, it's not like everyone is going to be able to hit the weak spot every single time. We have a Waffenträger of Panzer 4 that just missed it. We have an AE Phase 1 that just missed it. And now we're in a pretty good spot where we can do some damage and have a very nice hull down location. Now the 12 degrees of gun depression, they are really nice. It's such a novel feature to have. And it's quite weird since you're not an auto-loader. You're kind of in a situation that is quite rare because it usually only happens in vehicles like the Kranwagen or maybe the medium tanks that have a hydropneumatic suspension. That's something you don't have on this vehicle, but still, it works rather well. Having talked about that, let's move on to some things I've noticed. I've noticed that the vehicle does have the 35 kph top speed, but its traverse speed for the turrets and the tracks are both not very good. The vehicle takes a very long time to gain some momentum because the power to weight ratio is also not very good. Moving on to the ammunition, you can also see in a lot of games that the 240 millimeters of penetration, although most of the time being enough, is quite unreliable, especially when you hit the tracks. It's just really annoying, and I think if you had 258 millimeters of penetration, just like the E5 or the M103, you'd have a much more rounded kind of experience. Now the Heat round has 300 millimeters of penetration, and sadly it is one you'll have to utilize quite often if you are fighting tier 10 vehicles. The vehicle is a very big target. It's very easy to hit, but not always easy to pen unless you have the side of the vehicle or maybe even the rear. What I did notice though is that the gun is okay. It is reliable enough in close quarter combat, but the armor sadly is just not reliable enough. So you're looking at something like a tank that is quite awkwardly positioned in a place where it can do well if it is in the right scenario like this game. But I think I like the gameplay style. It's not the easiest tank to master, and it certainly has some serious downsides. It's certainly not like the AE Phase 1 or the Object 777 version 2. Both of these tanks are really, decent. They're very good all-rounders, and they're capable of doing quite a bit of damage and rely on their armor. While this tank can rely on its armor most of the time, unless people start shooting the cupola on top or the side of the vehicle, which is a rather big target. It is a really cool looking tank in my opinion. I think the turret looks even more rounded than the E5's turret, and there is just something about the style of the tank that really speaks to me. So in retrospect, after having played this tank for about 20 games now, was it worth spending 13,000 gold on it? It is a tier 9 premium tank. I try to not to fire a lot of premium shells, but it is sadly something you cannot get around when you're playing the T54 Heavy. But I think it's actually quite a lot of fun if you enjoyed the E5 and the Renegade. So for me personally, it's a fine collection or a fine addition to my collection. And I didn't really expect this tank to come out anytime soon. I know there was a lot of rumors about what vehicles will be coming out, but I think it's a good addition to the game without completely destroying the balance of anything in the current meta. And I think that is a fairly good place to be in. So, first initial impressions, it's actually rather positive, considering having looked at the characteristics of the vehicle. But we'll see, and I'll probably make a review afterwards. I also have to check if somebody has access or if I can get gameplay on the K2, because I would like to know if the K2 is good or not. I think I put a bid into it for the K2, but I'm not sure if I want it because I didn't check the game and I didn't see anything. So the last time I logged in after I got this, and it showed me this vehicle. I played a couple of games and I didn't check into my garage, but I paid like the minimum bid for the K2 just so I can make a review on it, but I'm not sure if I actually picked it up or not. That's going to be the next vehicle I'll be looking into if I can find it. So either way, I hope you guys did enjoy. I'll see you guys on the next video. Until then, have a good one.